I'm going to start off by saying that I am super excited to see everybody here and see so many familiar faces and new faces. And I want to say that I really appreciate everybody joining us and supporting us, because at the end of the day, that's our main goal, is to support each other. I'm even more excited because tonight we're talking about something that I think is extremely important to all of us. I'm going to start with introducing myself. For those of you who don't know me yet, my name is Cherie Al-Bukhair, and I am the founder of Cherie Al-Bukhair Marketing Project Management. And tonight, joining me is my super co-host, Dr. Barbara Schwark, who's the executive and personal life coach and the CEO of Clear Intentions International. I'm really excited about the topic that we're going to be discussing tonight, basically because it's all over the news internationally, specifically here in Israel as well. There's a lot of talk about going into a second lockdown. And over the last month and a half, most of the businesses all over the world have just come out of a lockdown and are trying to basically rebuild themselves, stand on their feet again, and survive this whole epidemic. And we all need the support of each other, and we need to actually have some tools in our hands to see how we can rethink things and how we can bring ourselves to a strong, positive position in our businesses to recuperate and work together. So tonight, we're going to talk about finding the power in the times of trouble and taking charge of the things that are really difficult for us in any aspect in our lives. And there's no better person to help me through this, and you as well, than Barbara. I have heard her speak several times, and she's just amazing, and she's really top-notch at what she does. And so we're going to go through a few things to help us give you some tools to think of how we can be proactive in what we do and how we can actually get our businesses to where we want to go, especially if we're going into a second lockdown. So Barbara, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me tonight.
I'm so excited. Do you want to introduce yourself a little bit? Just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So I was born and raised in Germany, and I lived in the United States in Pittsburgh for 27 years. And then I came to Israel about 5 years ago. And I came to Israel because I fell in love while I was on vacation, and now I live with my partner and our almost 5-year-old son in Kfar Saba. And prior to coming to Israel, I've had my executive coaching and training business for 20 years. And, I'll get a little bit into this later, but I wasn't planning to come to Israel. I wasn't planning to uproot my life and take my business and almost kind of start over, but I did, and I've learned a lot, and I'm a better person for it. So you can read about my credentials. I've coached for over 20 years. I have 3 master's degree and a doctoral degree and a certified coach. So I think this is also important. I come from 4 generations of family business owners. So when we were sitting around the business table, my parents would talk about business and the responsibility of being a business owner. And I remember in the 70s, we had to come back from vacation because there was the oil crisis. And the company was, we were threatened by shutting down and having to shut down the company. And so what we're going through is certainly something very intense, and it's stirred up a lot of, it's triggered a lot of things. And we want to put it into perspective that, times and times again, there are things that happen that are outside of our control, whether it's the economy or whether there's a war going on or whether there's we have COVID. Things happen, and so we want to be looking at what can we do to strengthen ourselves, and so that we can come out better and stronger.
Thanks, Barbara. I actually one of the main reasons why I was so excited to have Barbara help us tonight is because you had a very interesting article in the Times of Israel, and it made me think a little bit out of the box, thinking this isn't only about COVID, maybe it's about how we look at things in life in general, as people, as business owners, families, it doesn't matter. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your interesting article because it fascinated me.
Well, I got published recently in Times of Israel, and I talked about what is it like to be living in Israel as a non-Jew from Germany and a gay woman. And I described a little bit the difficulties that I've had living in Israel, because if you don't live here, you might not be familiar with that, but it's not easy because Israel is, generally not set up for people like me, and and initially it just almost broke me really, because it was like no matter where I turned, it was like, no, you can't, no, you can't, and no, we don't want you, and why don't you have a social security number, and what are you doing here? And but for those of you who are not really familiar with me, one of the cornerstone of my work is that I look at the negative beliefs that live inside of us. And I am 1000% convinced that those negative beliefs shape our reality. And yes, I understand it's not easy for somebody like me to live in Israel. But once I changed that belief, once I felt like I was welcomed here, and that, not just my family, because I always felt welcomed by my family here and the family of my partner. But once I changed that inside of me, everything started to change. And our clients would come to me, and I had my first contract working with an international company in Israel. So yes, it's like there are always challenging circumstances like we are experiencing right now, but only when we take responsibility for what we can do about it can we actually turn it around. So I got a lot of really, really nice comments from people from all over really. And so it was, I threw myself out there. I was very open and vulnerable, and it was met with a lot of appreciation, love, and generosity and kindness. So it was a good experience.
Okay, fantastic. So out of that experience, I want us tonight to help the businesses that have joined us and those who are watching us a little bit later. What are the tools? What can you tell us? How has the COVID impacted on you as a business owner? And using your tools, how have you found the positive in all this chaos of what everybody's feeling right now? How can you help us tonight bring ourselves to a point of this is going to happen, we're going to survive this, and we're going to be okay? Is it actually a reality?
Yes. So, in full disclosure, I had a anxiety attack. If you remember in March when it started, I woke up one morning and I had chest pains, and then I went to yoga, and the chest pains wouldn't go away. And I really had, I realized I had an anxiety attack because what was going to happen to my business, I couldn't control it. There was no childcare. I wasn't sure what was going to happen to my partner and her work. People were being let go of, so I was anxiety ridden. And so then, I decided, okay, let's see if you can really practice what you preach. So I took a look at what was being triggered inside of me. And what I'm sharing with you tonight, it might be somewhat difficult for some of you to hear, because it's challenging, and I'm challenging you, to take a deeper look, because really only if we can take control and we take responsibility for what's happening inside of ourselves with the situation that we're encountering can we actually make a difference. So I challenged myself and I said, okay, so what is being triggered? And what was being triggered was the same old stories that I have worked on all my life. And, to the degree that I have worked with myself and they're lesser or they've gone away, I've seen the results in my business. And what are they? I'm not good enough. No matter how hard you work, it's never going to be good enough. Always other people are doing it better. You're not smart enough, etc., etc., etc. And you can put your own belief in there. And if you're on the call and you don't have any of that stuff going on, it's like, kol hakavod, that's fantastic. So there actually are some people that don't have that going on, and it's fantastic. So I looked at that and I said to myself, how do you want to feel and where do you want to be when this is all over? And so I projected myself in the future, which is what I tell my clients to do. And I revisited my mission, my vision, my intentions, my goals, and I looked at all of that. And I took a look, and I said to myself, is what you really want still in line with who you are and what you want to accomplish, how you want to feel, at the end of COVID? And I decided, I looked at my mission statement and I rewrote it, and I looked at my personal mission statement. I looked at all those different things, at my values, and then I set some goals for myself. So I encourage all of you to really look at those, and there's a distinction between your intentions. Intention is something that, an experience that you want to have. How do you want to feel when you're doing your work? Like when I do my coaching, I am so excited because I get so invigorated because I feel like I'm making a contribution to that person over there, my client, their family, the community, their business. And so I feel really awesome. So it's like, yes, I want to continue to do that. And what are my goals? And I set some goals, and then I started to chart away. If you take a look at my first Facebook Live, I know Helen's on the call. It was horrible. It was totally abominable. I didn't know how to work the technology. I was silent for the first 5 minutes, and I sucked. So it's like, one of the things I said to myself was like, I am going to master this. I'm going to learn, how to talk to the audience. And, I would get feedback of, you're not energetic enough, and you're not smiling enough, and, you don't really have any, it's not enough value. So it's like I had these goals of where I wanted to really master some of those skills or get better, and wouldn't bring value to my clients. So all of that is super important. At the same time, what is also important is to take a look at what are the beliefs that are being triggered and what can you do about that. For those of you who know me, I have a unique coaching technology that really takes a deep look at the limiting beliefs, and we neutralize them. We change the neuroplasticity, and so that there's an immediate impact, and so that you can have more room inside yourself to actually then do the action steps. But there's things that you can do for yourself. So one of the things that we know from when we look at the brain, and all these things, by the way, that I'm telling you, people talk about them in different ways. One of the reasons of why we talk about them over and over again is because we need repetition. We're kind of slow. It's been established that human beings are not the fastest when it comes to dealing with change, and so we need repetition. One of the things that's going on with human beings, because of the way the reptilian brain is we have this thing called loss aversion. What does that mean? Is that we're structured in such a way that it's more comfortable for us to hold on to what we have. Okay, so even though it's shitty, let's say, it's more likely for us to hold on to the little tiny bit of our business that is still going on than to actually let go, okay, and then create something new. At the same time, we have this thing called worry going on, okay? And so what does worry do for us? It actually reaffirms over and over and over and over our limiting beliefs, instead of freeing our creativity up and setting our sight on something new, and then say, how can I figure out how to do this? Because when your creativity kicks in, you actually will quickly learn, oh, there's a solution that I didn't think about, which is why it's important that we actually come together as a group, because we can support each other and help each other. Once I figured out, and this is really a key for me, this made a difference. Once I figured out that for me to grow my business is not to take something away from another coach, but that I can actually look at it and saying, we're just going to create a bigger pie. There are so many more people that actually want coaching. I could actually feel good about marketing myself and selling myself, because I was not going to take something away from a friend of mine. Together, we were going to build something, and there were going to be more people that would utilize, the coaching services. So you take all these things together of where you look at, okay, worry doesn't really give me anything. It just affirms and supports my negative beliefs. I have a vision and I want to go somewhere, and I'm understanding that I have this thing called loss aversion going on, of where it's more likely for me to hold on to something, even though it's my Weevilly peanuts, and they're not really feeding me, than for me to let go and create something new. Okay, so that's important. And I'm telling you this because that's our natural inclination. And I want you to understand it, because it's going to make you feel better. And you go, oh, okay, it's okay. You know, our natural inclination is to worry, and I want to hold on to things, and I don't want to let go. Okay, I got that covered. And maybe I actually need to go in the hole for 5 minutes and grieve and bitch and moan and whatever I need to do. I give myself 5 minutes, and then I go, okay, where do I want to go? What is my goal? What is my intention? What are the beliefs that are getting triggered? And what do I need to do? And so that I can move myself forward.
Okay, so I just want to ask you a question on that point. Basically, what you're saying to us here is we need to focus on, we're allowed that mourning period because we have to have it. We have to get it out of our system in order to be able to take the next step forward, and not be embarrassed that we're feeling these things and thinking that it's not okay that we're feeling these things, because it's going to block us no matter what, anything we do with our creativity or taking that next step in the business.
Right.
Okay. Wow, that's amazing. So after your anxiety attack, which followed was my anxiety attack, I listened to you, I spoke to you. It was a short conversation of a consultation with you, of just, as a friend, Barbara, this is what I'm going through right now. And we had this very short conversation of, Cherie, this is what you need to do. You need to focus on your positive and write down what your goals are. And then you said to me, coach, find the way that you're able to cope with everything. Even if it's just a daily thing. Do you want to tell me, share with the group what you told me a little bit about how to even start dealing with the coping side of this whole aspect of seeing the positive in all of this mess?
Okay, so I'm a strong believer in routines. And one of the things I did, I put myself on, was a strong routine. And, some days I'm doing really well and I'm actually doing my routine religiously. And then, some days I have to force myself. So I tell you a little bit about my routine. My routine is, in the morning I wake up and I do what I would call a little prayer. It's like an invocation of the day. And then I do 10 gratitude statements, because that gets me into a mood of moving myself away from, oh my God, the world's ending. I'm about to, I'm going down, and I'm not coming back from there. I am grateful, because there are things to be grateful for. And sometimes it takes me a little bit to get into it. And so I will say, I am grateful for having water and electricity. I am grateful that there's food in my refrigerator. I'm grateful that people love me. I'm grateful that that I have the clients that I do have. And so I do 10 gratitude statements. Okay. And so then I'm already, half the battle's already done, because then I am already opening up. And then I have my affirmations. So I work with affirmations, because affirmations is the antidote to worrying and negative beliefs. So I have a few of them, and I have statements about my business, and I have statements about my health, and I have statements about who I am as a person. I've worked with affirmations for, 30 years, let's say. And I state them, and I read the mission statement of my business, clear intentions, and every day I read it. And then I do some meditation. And so sometimes people will do a quiet period where they listen for some inspiration. I do some meditation, and I read some spiritual materials, and then I exercise. So that's my routine. And sometimes I do it all at once, and sometimes it takes me, the whole day to get it all in. And what I'm finding, and this is me, that when I don't do my morning routine, I really feel a little out of sort. And these days, it's extremely important for me to meditate. I feel myself so called to have that rejuvenation and have that connection with a sense of, there's something that's bigger than me. And so, that's what I do. And it's important that we stick to our routines, whatever it is. And so you can come up with a morning routine or an evening routine. Oh, and then sometimes what I do is I review my day, and there will be things that I will not appreciate that I did, and I will judge myself, and I say, well, Barbara, you could have spoken better. Yesterday, I went to Ulpan. Okay, for those of you who don't know that, that's like I'm learning Hebrew. And I went and I had a cup of coffee, and the woman said, the woman told me before, whenever you want to come in here and you can have a cup of coffee, you can come anytime. And so she said, but you didn't ask for permission. And I thought about it for a second, and I said, but you told me I could come anytime I wanted to. And then I realized, no, that wasn't the best thing I could say. The better thing to say for me was, I'm really so sorry that I didn't ask for your permission. I apologize. And that was for me my way of cleaning it up, because I know I would have walked away and I wouldn't have felt so good about myself. And that, impacts that my ability to be creative, or my ability to be state my loving, or my generosity. So at the end of the day, I go through this routine where I look at, okay, where could I have done better? And I forgive myself, and so that I go to bed with as clear as a conscience as I can. And so that's important, that you have your routines. And then if you have business goals, or where you can say, every day I'm going to talk to one prospect, every day I'm going to talk to 2 prospects, or I'm going to do 2 marketing activities, whatever it is, then you do that. And the goal is always, if you have an activity like this and you didn't do it on Monday, I didn't do my 2 people or 3 people, I don't double up the next day. That's not the idea.
Okay.
I do my 2 or 3 people again, or whatever that is. And then I do the best I can. And then I look at were the goals that I set for myself, were they realistic or they're not realistic? And then I adjust. And I'm always kind and generous with myself, because I know that I'm doing the best I can. And for those of you who have children, and I think most of you do, you know what happens when you yell at your kids? Then it's going to take them a minute or 2 or 5 or whatever to come back from that before they're actually, get back into whatever it is that you want them to do. And it's the same with us. We have an even harder time when we yell at ourselves for us to come back. And so I want to be as kind and as generous with myself as I can be. So that's important, to have routines, to have goals, and to follow through with them to the best of your abilities. Now,
okay.
Go ahead.
No, I wanted to just ask you, because we're talking a lot about routine here. A lot of what's happened to most of us is that although we can sit down and do routine, and we want to do routine, like every hour there's a different change in what we're allowed to do, what we're not allowed to do, and it affects every aspect of our business. And do you think us as business people, as human beings, are able to actually deal with change without having that panic attack? Are we wired in the right way that we're able to deal with that change? And if we have to change our schedule, does it mean that we've come off our schedule now? And how do we even deal with the craziness of trying to even set that schedule, or our daily routine?
So I think one of the things that I've learned a lot lately is that it's really okay to be vulnerable. And as business owners, sometimes we have this belief that we need to be tough and we need to pretend that we can handle it all. And especially women, we got our kids under control and this and that. And the kids can't come in while we're on a coaching call. And, all those rules that we have. This is what it means to be professional. I got this all handled. And I think there's an opportunity for us to be more vulnerable and more real. I remember when my son, he was 3 years old, he walked in the middle of a coaching session. And I wanted to die. But it's like, that's just part of being human. And, I, of course, did all the precautions and whatnot, but obviously, it wasn't working. And I became a little bit more human in that moment. So yes, there are constantly challenges, and it depends on what is being triggered. What is being triggered inside of you? Are you telling yourself you can handle it and then you're going to be okay? Or once again, is it triggering, look at this, I screwed up. I should have had my son not walk into the coaching session, and look what a lousy coach I am. And am I like, going down in, falling down into the hole because I've made them, I wasn't as perfect as I expected myself to be. So, and then, ask for assistance. Let's be more creative. When we were in, isolation, and my partner was working from home, we had to come up with a schedule, and we had to shift things around. When these challenging times are happening, it's even more important for us to have a routine. And so a lot of people will tell you, what's important right now is to get more sleep, to drink more water, to continue with your exercise program, to eat well. Okay, those are all things that you can control. I had this period of where I would get up really early, and so I'd get my morning routine done before they all got up, so that there was a time during the day where I could feel like, okay, I have that half hour just to myself. And I think women are ingenious. I think we're super creative, and we've learned from a very young age to be able to multitask and to do many different things. So and I don't know if that answers your questions, but it's like, I always go back to, what is it that you're telling yourself, and how do you interpret this? Okay, and are you interpreting it in such a way that you're winning in your negative fantasies, or are you interpreting it in such a way that you're losing in your negative fantasies? In 1929, the stock market crashed, right? We all know this, and a lot of people went bankrupt. In 1929, a lot of people became millionaires because they invested in the stock market. And so there's always both sides happening. And I'm just telling you that we can determine some of our destiny, because this has happened before. And so we can create anything that's possible. So the question is, are you committed? Are you taking the steps? Are you setting your goals? Are you making them 50% realistic? Are you visualizing? There's all kinds of neuroscience that tells you that when we do these steps, when we rewire ourselves, when we do affirmations, when we visualize, when we look at our business in terms of increasing the pie for everybody, that there's enough coaching, and there's enough speaking, there's enough financial planning, there's enough, I don't know what you all do, like marketing, there's enough for everybody, that we can create that together. So, it's up to us to make it happen. And I'm not saying it's that it's easy, but it's simple. There are simple steps that are being outlined for us, but it's not easy to necessarily follow them, because we are our own worst enemies, and we have to work with ourselves, because we get triggered, and we fall into negativity, and we doubt ourselves. And if you're anything like me, I grew up in Germany, and it was a very negative, rigid culture I grew up with. God bless my mother, I love her dearly, but this is how she thought she would motivate me. She said, "You're not that smart, Barbara, but if you work really hard, maybe you will, get somewhere someday." And I'm like, all my life I was like trying to prove to them that I'm smart. I have 3 master's degree and a doctorate degree. I wrote a book, and then a few things, until I finally realized that was just her way of motivating me. But I made that mean that maybe I wasn't that smart. So, take the time to take a look at, what is it that you believe in, and how do you look at yourself, and how critical are you with yourself? Most of us, when we speak to ourselves in private, you would never be your own best friend. You would never talk to yourself that way. So, and it's so quick. Like one of my friends is on a call. You know who you are. We went to the beach this morning. I left my phone in her bag. And my first thought was, oh, what an idiot are you that you left your phone? And I'm like, whoa, cancel. This is a mistake that, it's easy to make. Everything worked out. So it's like, that's how quick we move into being negative with ourselves, so quickly. And so then I want to catch myself. It's like, it's okay, honey. Of course, it's something that, that mistake that you would make. good that you figured out how to solve it. And we solved it. This took us 15 minutes and off we went. So, and it's the same when we talked to, when we look at our businesses. When maybe I wasn't perfect with a client, or maybe I didn't do all my business development, or, so.
So I think that a question that comes up all the time in the business world is, well, how do you cope? How do you even, how do you even start dealing with this whole thing? I personally can tell you that when I sat home for the 3 months of the lockdown, I had 4 kids at home, and I, like everybody else, lost a lot of business. And I really didn't have a lot of time to actually think about how it was going to impact me immediately at the time, because I had to deal with the reality. We had Passover, we had everything else going on there. And then I needed to deal with this. I was like, I had to cope and see what I was going to build in order to help me for the next coming months. So, after our conversation, one of the things you said to me was focus on the good that you've got in your life. And I realized I know people, and that is my strength. Is I love people, I connect people, I'm good at doing that. And so the one thing that I could do, that I could cope with, deal with, was open a Facebook supportive group, which is basically called Supporting Small Businesses. It's a professional forum. And I brought together a team of 21 experts that amazingly give all the free advice to these businesses. There's over 300 members in the group. And the main thing was, I can't cope with this by myself. And like you said, think of who you can get in your life to help you get through this stage. So for me, that was my way of dealing, was creating, and thank God you are part of that group, as one of my experts there, as well as Helen, who's with us here on the call. And basically, I felt safe. I felt that we're all going through this together. I've got professionals behind me that are willing to give professional free tips to help other businesses. And at the end of the day, that's what it's about. It's about leaning on who we know, because we're not alone. And I think that also helps a little bit with the negativity that we're feeling within ourselves, is that if I've got a group of people I can turn to and say, I'm having a really bad day today, can you just listen to me? Can you just give me a little bit of advice? Maybe that's also going to help us get through it. That's the way that I felt that I was coping. I don't know about you, like what specifically, how are you coping?
Well, I mean, everybody has their own situation. I only have one child. You have four children. So
I know.
I can't even imagine.
And there's others here that have more.
I know they have many more children on the call. So everybody has to have, look at it from their point of view. And some of us have children that are grown. So for me, again, I looked at this, and it's always been a little bit anxiety producing for me to be with my son. I feel stressed somehow. And, and I couldn't really tackle what was this all about. He's this little guy, and he's fun to be with. And like, why am I stressed? What's stressing me about this? And I decided that I was going to use this opportunity to turn that around and identify that and heal something maybe inside of me, and look at my belief. And, I, even though we shared the responsibility, there were like weeks where I was the one that was mainly with him, and I did. And I realized that it had something to do with him depending on me, that it wasn't like an adult that would come to me and say, hey, can you help me with something? And I can say, well, I'll do it later. But like with him, there was like a vulnerability and somebody really depending on me. And that was, a challenge for me. So again, I was like, oh, I'm never going to have this opportunity like this again. What can I do? How can we come together? How can we overcome it? We're lucky in that in terms of finances, yes, my business was slashed in half, but my partner still had a business, and I somehow trusted and believe in that, that I just determined I'm going to be fine. I'm going to be fine. I'm going to be fine. And everything is going to be fine. And I don't have to have all the answers. I don't need to control all of it. I can root myself in those goals and take my action step. Listen, you do have to take action. If you want a Mercedes-Benz and you're going to sit in your bedroom and all day long you're going to meditate and visualize that Mercedes-Benz, it's not going to happen. So we do need to take action. And so I took action. I was part of a 30-day morning community in Cyprus for 2 months, and I learned how to do all these things, and I learned a lot about being on Zoom and how to manage the technology and do meditations on Zoom, all this stuff. And I'm lucky because my mother, here goes my mother again, who I love dearly, as you know, she told me a long time ago that you want to have a fund for rainy days. She said to me, and I tell this to all my business, my clients, that one of the things that you want to do is you want to have yourself a rainy day fund. And so I have a rainy day fund, and I used that rainy day fund in 2008 and 2009 when in America the everything crashed, and in 1 month 75% of my business was slashed. I lost all of my corporate contracts with Bayer, with Heinz, all these big corporations. It was just poof. And so I have a rainy day fund that that helps me relax, and I'm like, my rainy day fund is there. And then I decided, actually, why don't you grow your business? Why don't you challenge yourself? Because there's always people that are interested in hiring coaches, and there's people that want to have speakers present via Zoom, and there's maybe things I never thought about. I have an app that I never really promoted, and maybe it's time for my business, for my book to get promoted again, or maybe there's somebody that I can team up with, that I can do some business with. So it's like, I started to be creative, and you have to really look at your own unique situation. And that's why I think a coach or a mentor or a friend can be great, of where you can sit down and say, give me your honest opinion. And you can be honest. How was your business before COVID? Were you thriving or were you struggling already? So if you were struggling, maybe your numbers were good, but you weren't really having fun, okay? Or you didn't really like what you were doing, and you were doing something because, you felt like that's what you had to do. Then I say to you again, use this opportunity to really, really look at what is it that you wanted to do, and trust and believe in yourself. There are millions of stories where somebody needed money and they needed to do something, and they believed in themselves and they didn't know, and all of a sudden, there it was, and the universe, it's called the universe or God or whatever you want to call it, was there to assist, or a friend. So I don't always have the specific answers. I can only tell you that the formula works, and that for those of you who believe in God or not, I look at it and say we are God's highest form of creation, and God wants us to be happy, and God wants us to be thriving and abundant, and that means that we can all have that. And my whole mission to doing what I do is I want the planet to be better. I want us all to be in a better space. I want to for everybody to be having what they want to have. And it's like you can call me Nanny Panny or Vanilla or Manila or whatever. It's like that's what moves me forward. That what inspires me, and I believe that, and I know that to be my reality. And just because that's what I believe in, it is my reality.
So tell me another thing. What's the most challenging thing for you right now? Because we've got a little bit of an idea of how to look at the positive things, but is there something that you find like that's challenging for you right now, like the rest of us? Is it a personal challenge? Is it a business challenge?
What I'm challenged with is it's a personal challenge. I feel a little bit in a box because I can't travel. So I can't go to Germany with my child because he's not German, and he's not allowed to come. So I really wanted to go and visit my family for the in August, and the whole travel situation is really challenging for me. I can't go to the United States. I have a house in the United States. I have some clients there. So for me, that's really challenging, and it's a constant act in letting go. I usually go, about every 4 months. I go to the United States. My mother's 81. She's not doing so well. I would really like to see her, and I can't. And I looked at this from all the different angles, and for me, it's not a good idea. And I was telling somebody about this today, and this might be too much detail. You know, on the Mizrat Apnim website, it's required for people like me with a visa like me to have a pre-authorization to come back into the country, and yet the Mizrat Apnim is unwilling to issue those documents, and so people find themselves without those documents at the border trying to come back into Israel, and the border police is saying, sorry, you don't have the documents and you can't come back into the country. And I really can't risk that. I cannot not be with my partner and my son. And so for me, that's very challenging. And I say, okay, listen, this is a little tiny thing. You know, other people don't even think about this. So you know, I just deal with that. It's challenging for me. And my clients keep saying, when are you coming to Pittsburgh? Or when are you know, can't you come to Switzerland? And we want you to do X, Y, Z. And I go, well, you know, there's the internet and Zoom and this is what we can do right now. And if you think back 10 years ago, we were not able to do this at all, you know, and we have come so far. And then I go back into being grateful that we have the ways that we can communicate. So that's a challenge for me. That's it's my challenge.
But with the tools and your workshop, we're going to get through this together, right?
Of course, you know, listen, it's like, it's in full disclosure. So one of the things about me is that, you know, it's just like who you see, when you see me as a coach, you see me as at home or in, you know, as a friend, this is what you get. And I think there's a strength when we can be vulnerable. I said this a little bit earlier. So, you know, these are my struggles, and a lot of other people don't have those struggles. You have different struggles, and we need to take them seriously. We need to look at them. We need to appreciate them, and then we can figure out, you know, how we can overcome them. And you know, I there's many stories that I can tell you when I've used this methodology that I talked about, and I've, you know, accomplished a lot of things. So I know the work.
I agree with you 100%. I think that one of the things when I work with the clients on marketing is I always have to remind them as well as myself, because we're humans at the end of the day, that in order for you to sell your brand and your business, you have to remember that at the end of the day, you're your brand. You're the person behind it. People like knowing who they're dealing with, and they want that personal contact. And so it's okay to be vulnerable, and it's okay to tell your personal story within your brand, because you are your brand and people want to know the truth. Today we live in a world where everything's exposed, everything's out there. And I think that one of the things that we learned today from this whole session is that it's okay to feel the feelings that we're feeling, and we just need to find those positive ways to look at how to deal with things in our lives. And by going to a coach that has the experience, whether it be public speaking, marketing, or through you, to help us, guide us through those directions, it's okay to ask for that help. And that is where the success of getting through this whole procedure and this whole scenario right now, that's where we're going to see the results. Carry on. Yeah.
No, I just want to say something. It's a very important point that you make, because when you look at the athletes of the world, and you know, some of the star players, whether, you know, athletes or in business, they all have help. You know, whether it is a coach, or whether it's a public speaking coach, or it's a coach, or it's like, why go through this alone? You know, I want to spend my time doing what I'm best. I'm best at coaching. You know, I can probably dabble in marketing, and you know, enough to be dangerous. But it's like, no, I'm going to leave that to somebody else. I am going to do what I'm best at, because this is what I like, and this is what I want to be doing. And so I am going to surround myself with support and help, and so that people can move me forward. If you think about, you know, like tennis players, or you think about, you know, football players, like the quarterback has a quarterback coach, they have an offensive coach, they have a team coach, they have a fitness coach, and nobody thinks anything of it. It's perfectly fine for that person to have 3 or 4 coaches. So But we give ourselves a hard time. We think we have to figure this out on our own. I think, if you'd asked me, the biggest mistake that I made is that I didn't surround myself, with coaches or, other assistants early on. I also thought I could do this all myself on my own, because it wouldn't have taken me so long. And so, I'm not saying that you can't figure this out on your own. You can, but it might take you that much longer to neutralize your unworthiness or your I'm not good enough, or whatever it is that that is sitting deep down inside of you. So it's like there's no need for us to carry that around for more than a nanosecond, because there's things that you can do about it in order to turn it around.
Amazing. So we've got 10 minutes left till the end of our session, and I want to open it up to questions. I've received a question here from somebody. How do you demonstrate all of this and lead your team to be more confident, productive, and positive? What is the best advice to infuse your team with that if you are struggling with it?
Oh, wow. That's a big question.
It's very big.
A very big question. So, I think first of all, a team takes a lot from the leader, and I would probably start to practice this with myself, and I would look at the beliefs that I have in terms of what kind of leader am I, what do I think about myself as a leader, and what are the goals that I have as a leader, and then I would share this with the team. I would challenge my team to also question themselves. How do they feel as part of the team? And one of the things that I tell my clients when I coach them, if their team is relatively a small size, no more than 20, I encourage them to set up individual conversations with each member of the team and talk to them about who are they, how do they like to be supported, what kind of communication works for them, because everybody's different, and so that they can have an individual rapport. And then I also encourage them to talk about, and how are we going to handle it if something is not working out the way we want it to work out. And so that ahead of time, we have already created some guidelines around, now we're at this point. I asked you to do this thing for me, and you're not doing it, and I feel challenged by it. Okay, so that right from the get-go, I have decided what kind of leader I'm going to be. What is my leadership style? What is my brand of leadership? I'm practicing on it. I'm vulnerable. If you go on my website, by the way, there's a couple of blogs you can search them that I wrote about leadership, and I talk about things like transparency and being open to feedback. And being vulnerable and things like that. But it's really important that you do take the time to get to know everybody and figure out what works best for them. Because if you think about it in terms of being a parent, and I know some of you don't have children, you have a strategy because you know your child very well. And if you have more than one kid, you know that you have different strategies for different children, because this one can take it when you talk to them directly, and this one needs a little bit more love and support, and this one's always going to fall apart first before they rebuild themselves. So and how to love and nurture them, encourage them, and so that you can bring out the best. It's the same with your team. When we are a team leader, the issues that people have with us are always mommy and daddy issues. Okay, so the entire issues that we had, that we grew up with when we were kids, it replays themselves. When you don't like somebody at work, it's because probably unconscious goes and says, oh, Cherie, she looks like my little brother. I can't stand my little brother, and I'm going to reject her because automatically I have that innate reaction to you, and I don't even know why I'm having it. Or I say, oh, she looks like my older brother. I love my older brother, and I'm immediately open to you, and I'm going to say, we have this great connection. Why is that? Because my unconscious is going to associate you with either somebody that I love or somebody that I have issues with, and sometimes it's in the neutral category. Usually it's either hot or cold. So the more we're aware of all this, what goes on with with the brain and the unconscious and our subconscious, and how it impacts our relationships and our relationship with ourselves and our relationship with our team, the better we can guide our team. That's a big question, and it's why usually people come to coaching because they want to be better leaders and they want to fine tune their skills.
Amazing. Has anybody got any questions for either one of us? For those that haven't got their cameras on, you can send it to us in the comments. And for those that have got their cameras, you can wave. We're all good. Barbara, tell me something. What can we leave the amazing people that joined us tonight with? Can you tell us, are you running anything? Have you got courses? Do you do it privately? Do you do it one-on-one? How does it work?
So a couple different somebody just wrote something. Goodbye, Jim. So a couple of different things. First of all, there's two different things that I'm doing. One is I'm about to start a 3 months coaching group. It's a small group for no more than 12 people. We're going to be meeting over a 3 months period. And it's for people that really want to take their business or their personal life to the next level. And we're going to look at goals. We're going to do, I'm going to take you through all the steps that we talked about. And then we're going to do a little bit of neuroemotional coaching. And I'm going to have 2 short sessions at the beginning and at the end, which each person, so that we can make sure that we're starting on the right foot and that you're set up to continue. So, and the program will be, what are your goals? What is your mission? What's your vision? What are your intentions? What are you working on? And looking at the beliefs that run you, that are stopping you.
Amazing.
That's I did it. It's a COVID thing because I know that people have limited budgets, and so I think it's a very reasonable amount that I'm charging. Groups are not for everybody. Because some people do way better in one-on-one, and of course when you do one-on-one you can accomplish much more. Yes, of course most of the work that I do is with one-on-one. I have some clients where there's 2 people on the call or 3 people on the call, small groups. It might be a family business that I'm working with. That's it depends on the situation. If you're interested, if you have more questions, I really encourage you to schedule a 20-minute free strategy session with me. You can, I think there's a link on my website.
So yes, we've got it here. Rachel's put it into the group for everybody, the link to the coaching group.
Yeah, so you can check that out. You can sign up for a free 20-minute strategy session. You can learn more about what it is that I'm doing. And, I'm delighted to tell you more. There's a bunch of videos on my YouTube channel that shows you more about the technique that I'm doing. And, feel free to reach out, and I'm happy to discuss and support you in any way that I can and that makes sense for you.
Amazing. We've got another question here. There are many men in my field, and I feel like I'm not taken too seriously. I have times of trouble to build myself up and to be heard. So my ideas are barely heard, and then later they will have the same ideas that I had. So I feel like I'm certain more and more. How do I build up my confidence in the question, even though you might not be perfect in the beginning, which is huge because a lot of us women work in a very much of a man's world. Okay, so this is an important question. I'm sure a lot of other people in the group here are feeling that. What would you answer in short, because we haven't got a lot of time here, and we have another question afterwards.
Okay, so listen, I go back to the drawing board. You're experiencing things in the outside because of what you are believing. And so somewhere there's a seed inside of you that is already saying that people don't want to hear me, or my ideas that are not valid, and then the universe matches that. Okay, so I know this is not so easy to hear, and we want to say no, it's the other way around. it's on the outside and then it matches my inside. But really, it's not how it works. It works that we are the source, and we can take responsibility for that, because then you can actually change it. And so I would look at, what is it that you believe in really? Go as deeply as you can, and trace it back. If you don't want to hire me as your coach, and you want to do this on your own, take a look at, where did I see this first? How long has this been in existence? And what do I want to put in its place? Okay, so that I can turn this around. And you might really, it's going to take some discipline. One of the super important things that is really very valuable for any of us during this time is discipline. Discipline to do these exercises, discipline to follow through on your goals and all those things. So it all comes back to, there's a belief, whether it's conscious or unconscious. Unconscious is the 90% of the iceberg that we can't see, that is causing you to have that experience outside of you. Sorry, this might not be the answer that you wanted to hear, but it's like,
and they can, and also everyone can contact us privately afterwards to go more into depth if you've got more questions about that, of course. Helen, I believe you have a question for us. Do you want to? Yeah, no, you're good. Okay, cool. I think this summarizes up an amazing, amazing meeting. I really appreciate every single one of you for taking the time to join us tonight and to listen to us all. Most importantly, both Barbara and myself are here for any questions that you might have in any aspect of where you want to take your business with your confidence, if it's marketing strategy, if it's coaching, if it's mindfulness. If you guys are interested in any future events that we're running, we're both running different workshops that have been adapted for the COVID community. Please feel free. You can see it on all our links. We've put them up here through Facebook. And we're more than happy to help you and assist you, because we really believe that together we can make the difference and we can survive this together. I want to personally thank Barbara. It's been absolutely amazing. I appreciate it so much for sharing everything about you on this platform with us. And you're one of my experts on my team in the professional forum on the Facebook. So we look forward to seeing a lot more stuff from you. And I want to thank everybody that joined us tonight, all the new and familiar faces. And please God, we'll get back into our routines and we'll see better days. And we should meet up soon. Barbara, do you want to say anything before we go?
I want to thank you, Cherie, and I want to thank Rachel for putting this all together. And listen, we are doing this together. It's like we're all moving forward. And so I want to thank you for coming tonight, and I want to encourage you to step outside your comfort zone. Whatever little step that you do, take it. And know that you will be a bigger, better person for it, and that you're a trailblazer. So
amazing. So thank you, everybody. And we're going to switch off now, and we will see you soon. If you've got anything, let us know. Much appreciated.
Goodbye.
Bye.